Grace and peace to you. Welcome to Morning Watch. I'm Rob, one of the pastors here at White Plains. Glad to have you with us today. Happy Friday. This is where we gather for a song and a thought for the day. So glad you're here with us whenever you're watching. Thanks for liking and sharing and all of that good stuff. Let's begin our time together by going to God in prayer. Open unto me light for my darkness. Open unto me courage for my fear. Open unto me hope for my despair. Open unto me peace for my turmoil. Open unto me joy for my sorrow. Open unto me strength for my weakness. Open unto me wisdom for my confusion. Open unto me forgiveness for my sins. Open unto me love for my hates. Open unto me thyself for myself. Lord, Lord, open unto me. Amen and amen. Thanks. Caffeine and hymns. I think that's what we're doing, Steve. But I understand Fortnite makes a good Irish coffee. So there you go. Hey, Terry, good morning. Morning, Florida. Glad to have y'all with us. Thanks again to you whenever you're watching. So we've been talking throughout our time that we've been spending with Howard Thurman about his quality as a mystic. I've been playing some songs and artists that I feel like sort of fall into that. One artist that I think definitely falls into that is Sting. He writes a lot of, for someone who professes not to have a religion, he sure writes a lot of songs based in scripture and religious tradition and imagery. Cheryl would say he's trying so hard. So, one of my favorite Police songs is off of the album Spirits in the Material World. Same album that has Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic on it. And it's called Invisible Sun. I thought it fit with today's Thurman focus. Spend the rest of my life looking at the barrel of an Armalite. I don't want to spend the rest of my days keeping out of trouble like a soldier's save. I don't want to spend my time in hell looking at the walls of a prison cell. I don't ever want to play the part of a statistic in a government chart, and there has to be an invisible sun, gives heat to everyone. There has to be an invisible sun, gives us hope when the whole day's done. It's dark all day and it glows all night. Factory smoke and acetylene light. I face the day with my head caved in, looking like something that the cat brought in. And there has to be an invisible sun, gives us heat to everyone. There has to be an invisible sun, it gives us hope when the whole day is done. And they're ever gonna change this place by killing every heat to everyone. There has to be an invisible sun. Gives of hope when the whole day is done. There has to be an invisible sun. Gives its heat to everyone. There has to be an invisible sun. Gives us hope when the whole day is done. The whole day is done. There you go. Yeah, I mean, that idea that we're connected in some way, right, by an invisible, ineffable source of light, not that far away, is it? Loretta Coleman Brown, in this book, What Makes You Come Alive, A Spiritual Walk with Howard Thurman, has a great chapter on what she calls sacred synchronicity. Of course, also made me think of the Police. Sting, right? Synchronicity. She writes about sacred synchronicity. Pay attention to divine intervention. Thurman wrote in his book Meditations of the Heart, again and again we are reminded by the facts of our own lives that there is an aspect of our experience which seems to be beyond our own control, and yet it seems ever to manipulate us into position. When such things happen, we call them work of fate or destiny or some other term which expresses our ignorance of what is at work. The most convenient term is coincidence. But this labeling does not indicate that we had to find any terms. We have merely described a situation or a result. Coincidence, fate, providence, chance, or the purpose of God. Young Howard Thurman tossed aside financial and racial obstacles to obtaining a secondary education and moved beyond the oppressive atmosphere of Daytona Beach. At the time, colored children were only permitted to complete the 7th grade, thereby disqualifying them from a high school education which required 8 years of formal classroom learning. But the black community that surrounded Thurman came together to ensure that his keen intellect would have room to grow. The principal of his school personally tutored him through his 8th grade studies and prepared him for the 8th grade exam. And Thurman agreed to work a number of jobs and arranged to stay with cousins in Jacksonville, Florida, so that he could attend Florida Baptist Academy. Finally, the day young Howard was to board the train to Jacksonville arrived. At the station, he found that his one trunk, strapped together with rope, did not meet railroad regulations for his type of ticket. The trunk would have to be shipped separately, the railroad official informed him, and it would cost him $3. Howard only had $1 in his pocket. He sat down and cried. Then Howard heard a deep baritone voice asking him what was wrong. He opened his eyes and saw a large black man in overalls, work boots, and a large denim cap. Thurman explained that he wanted to travel to Jacksonville so he could obtain a high school education, but that he didn't have enough money to ship his trunk. The man then signaled to Thurman to get up and follow him to the ticket office. This complete stranger paid the remainder of the shipping cost for the trunk, so that Thurman could leave for high school. Years later, Thurman would dedicate his autobiography to the stranger who helped him. The memory of this moment of divine grace would also motivate him to establish the Howard Thurman Educational Trust. The trust created a scholarship program for students like Thurman so they could gain an education that would lift them out of poverty. How about you? Have you ever had anything like that? An experience of a stranger out of nowhere that meets a need or says the right thing at the right time? I've shared before about some of mine and Cheryl's experiences with this kind of providence. And I thought it was interesting to see how many times that occurred in Dr. Thurman's life. Many Christians see God's hand in everything that happens, saying it's a God thing or calling something a God wink. And many of us might find it easy to dismiss what they call divine assistance or intervention as simply serendipity or chance. But Thurman's views on divine intervention offer a way out of simplistic claims that God ordains everything on the one hand, or that everything happens by chance on the other hand, right? Those are the two options we usually find ourselves. Either God has set the world in motion and is far removed from it, or the clockmaker God, for example. Or God is the chessboard God, moving the pieces around on the board. Peter Eisenstadt, the renowned Thurman scholar and biographer, ties the synchronistic occurrence at the train station to Thurman's notion of God. He says providence would be perhaps too strong a term for Thurman's belief, but luck is too weak. It was one of those uncanny linkages between two events, a brief moment when a hidden, benign undergirding and connectedness of the universe is glimpsed. If Thurman's God was in a live oak tree, God could also be found in a railway station. There would be other moments in Thurman's life, too, when an unexpected turn of events heralded a divine presence. And she invites us to hear these stories of his providence and use them to reflect on our own experiences. One of the things I thought was particularly interesting was an encounter he had with a tract, a book that he read. Here's the story. God's timing appears impeccable. Sometimes a holy coincidence is just a word or a phrase on a billboard or in a book or in the lyrics of a song that resonate deeply with something that we've been thinking about. On occasion, we meet a person who acts like a transitional object or a transfer agent. They cannot help us directly, but they can connect us with another person who addresses the problem. A momentous synchronicity occurred during Thurman's first church assignment in Oberlin, Ohio. One evening, Thurman attended a conference on religious education in a nearby town. Becoming bored, I can believe that, he decided to step outside for some fresh air. On his way out, he passed a table with books for sale for 10 cents each. He bought two, one of which had a very intriguing title, Finding the Trail of Life. Right then and there, he sat down and read the book in its entirety. And during his reading, he felt the author was speaking to him and describing his experiences as a young boy. He longed to meet and study with its author, Quaker mystic Rufus Jones. As soon as he returned home, he acquired as much information as he could about Jones, who was a distinguished professor of religion and mysticism at Haverford College outside Pennsylvania. He suspected the college did not admit Negro students, but that did not prevent him from pursuing the possibility. Meanwhile, Thurman was invited to present a worship experience for students at the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. While there, Thurman met his first Quaker, a gentleman who invited him to a winter meeting of Quakers. During the gathering, Thurman shared with this man how much he yearned to study mysticism with Rufus Jones. By happenstance or holy coincidence, the Quaker man shared that he had been friends with Rufus Jones for 40 years and had even been his neighbor for some of that time. He agreed to talk with Jones on Thurman's behalf, and soon thereafter, Rufus Jones contacted Thurman for more details. Jones provided Thurman, admitted as a special student with graduate housing and no charge for tuition. Despite Thurman's recent appointment as a professor of religion and director of spiritual life at Morehouse Spelman Colleges, he was able to secure a semester leave and the financial resources to support his family while studying with Jones at Haverford. Through sacred synchronicities, Thurman had been led to a distinguished scholar of religion and mysticism. Later, Thurman wove the knowledge that he gained from Jones and his vast library on mysticism into meditations, sermons, and other writings. Once again, it seems, divine assistance supported Thurman's desire to pursue, in his own words, that which moves with the grain of my own wood. So there's more. She talks also about his encounter with Mahatma Gandhi and how that influenced his life and his philosophies. And on his 6-month trip to India, that meeting almost didn't happen, and things came together so that it could. But I thought I'd close with one of Thurman's writings on this about how we are connected in community. Thurman believed passionately in nature, in solitude, in stillness. But he also believed in community and connectedness. In The Search for Common Ground, he wrote this: in human society, the experience of community or realized potential is rooted in life itself, because the intuitive human urge for community reflects a characteristic of all life. In the total panorama of the external world of nature, there seems to be a pattern of structural dependability and continuity, or what may be called an inner logic, that manifests itself in forms, organizational schemes, and in a whole variety of time-space arrangements. The most striking pattern of all is that there seems to be affinity between the human mind and all external forms, a fact that makes an understanding of the world possible for the mind. The religious basis for such an interpretation of community is the affirmation, which to me is categorical, that the mind of God realizes itself in time, and that there are observable patterns or sequences in all creation. Thus, God is thought of as creator. From this point of view, all time-space manifestations of substance, in short, all things, all of existence itself, are regarded as the mind of God coming to itself in time and space. This is evident in history and in nature. Existence itself is construed as divine activity. There seems to be a principle of rationality in all existence, and the significance of this can be found in the order of life. True, what seems to be a principle of rationality, as expressed in observable order of life, may be a limitation of the mind itself. Yet it is this assumption of inherent logic in the functioning of the mind that makes comprehension of the external world possible. Or as Sting might say, there has to be an invisible sun. Gives heat to everyone. All right, have a great day, folks. May you ponder those words of wisdom from Thurman and enjoy this day and the weekend. I look forward to seeing you Sunday in church. Those of you going on the women's retreat, have a great time there. And I'll see you again Monday morning for another morning watch. We'll finish up Monday and Tuesday with a couple last things on Howard Thurman. and then we'll begin our Lenten study, Show Me the Way by Amre Nouwen, on Ash Wednesday, which is next week. Can you believe that? All right. Take care. Thanks for being here. May you find peace and purpose in this day. Talk to you soon.